Wait there. Yeah. There we go. Right. Gentlemen, a bit late. 1 second. Let me grab a beer. What a day. What a flipping day, man. Generally say if things can go wrong, they will. If it can go wrong, believe you me, it will. Anyway, how are we all? How are we all, gentlemen? So, let me have a little straighten around here quick. How are we all doing? Tim Bell, Omar, Danny Arbuckle, Mike, gents. What a day! What a flipping day! So let me just let me just recap. Let me just recap on this whole situation, right? And just tell you where I was at. So I did a little update a week or so ago. We sort of said I wanted to make these lives a lot more exciting than what they are. So ultimately, um, thinking from a viewer's perspective, I personally think to myself, these are a little bit shit. I want to make them a bit more exciting than what they currently are. So you might enjoy them. You might enjoy me just coming on live and just waffling a little bit and doing a bit of a Q&A, and that's all well and good. But ultimately, I want to make them a lot more exciting than what they are. So, Mike, Michael, Patrick, Robert, Eric, TT, how are you, fellas? Yeah, let's just cut to this chase and just let me get to the point anyway. What I wanted to say. I personally think that these lives can be a hell of a lot better than what they currently are on a Sunday. So what I would love to do, and what I've been sort of behind the scenes, like you guys haven't seen what's going on, but behind the scenes, what I've been doing is I've been trying to organise with other YouTube plasterers, other guys that you all know from YouTube. I've been trying to work things with them to make it so that we can do like a bit of a podcast sort of session on the lives with me sort of being the interviewer. Right, but not your typical sort of interview. I don't want to just sit here sort of ask them, plastering questions like, what sort of ratio do you mix your sand and cement? I'm not, we can ask questions like that, but what I wanted to do was really get like, get stuck into them. So the likes of, Blaine Gray, Joel Cook, Eric, the plasterer. There's all sorts of different fellas. Alex Morley, Kurt Giordana. So what I've been doing is the last couple of days, well, the last week or two actually, I've been reaching out to these guys and trying to pin them down. Trying to schedule them in for getting them on me live, so they can't escape. So we can ask them all sorts of questions. So, not necessarily plastering questions either. What I want to do is sort of have a chat with them, get to know them as a person, not so much, ask them technical questions, but more like, get to know what they were like as kids, what their upbringing was like. Did they come from a council estate, or were they brought up sort of posh? Um, that sort of stuff. Get to know more about them. As actual people and as plasterers. Why they started YouTube channels? Did they get any shit from trolls? Did they get any funny? Did they get recognised when they're out and about? I mean, it's a bizarre thing when you sort of become like I wouldn't say a YouTube star, but when people start to know who you are on the internet, you you can be out and about and people just stop you. I mean, is it bizarre for their wives, their girlfriends? that sort of stuff. So that's the sort of thing that I wanted to ask them. That was the sort of the tone I wanted to take with it. So anyway, I've been working on that behind the scenes. Now I actually had someone lined up for today. We were going to get the big man himself, Joel Cook. Um, Joel was going to come on today, but it just so happens his missus has just had a baby, like literally a couple of days ago, and it's his first one. Now Joel said to me, he was like, yeah, doesn't matter. Um, the baby's due on, I think it was Monday. The baby was due. Sure, he said. The baby's due on Monday, but it's all good. I'll be on. I'll jump on anyway. But this is Joel's first kid, and I was thinking to myself, nah, he won't be on. If he's having his first baby at the start of the week, I know what it's like. That when your little precious baby comes along, your whole life changes. Your first one, especially, because you don't know what you're expecting when you first get your little baby. Your firstborn. There's no feeling like it in the world, is there? As if you guys are, if there's dads out there watching this, you know all about it. It literally blows your mind. Um, you've got you're sleeping upside down in the bed because you're trying to listen to the baby breathing, and you just besotted with the baby. You've got all the family visiting. You're not sleeping properly. You're jumping through hoops trying to make sure your missus is okay and she's happy and safe, and your whole world goes upside down. So I sort of had it in my mind that I didn't think Joel was going to be on, and it turns out his missus's blood pressure has gone a little bit up, so he's back into to the hospital, just making sure that she's okay, which I 100% understand. So that's why today we haven't got a little special guest. We were going to have Joel Cook from Rendivate, but as I said, he's a little bit busy, he's a little bit tied up, so we haven't got him. So sorry for disappointing you guys. Now that said, um, another thing that I wanted to just quickly address, whilst I've got you all here, which is something I didn't really think about. Um, I sort of just, I sort of just jumped straight on it and never really considered it very much, which was a bit stupid of me, a bit naive of me, considering the whole. Well, I'll just tell you. Let's not beat around the bush. So as you know, I do like giveaways, like little raffles, cheap raffles, and raffle things up on my channel. And I've sort of done, in case you're new to this, I've done trowels that have been worn in with speed skims and Dewalt mixers and all that sort of stuff in the past, and sort of, raffle them away at an affordable price. And it's more to try and, you know, give you guys fantastic value for money. Well, anyway, listen, I sort of fucked up a little bit. So let me just come straight with you and just tell you exactly what is in my mind. I thought I'd do another giveaway. I thought I'd do another sort of raffle, and give away some tools with an option, with a bit of a. So you had a bit of a, you could pick sort of what you wanted. And what the plan was to do Makita or Dewalt, because I know people, you're either in one team or the other. You either like the Makita stuff or the Dewalt stuff. So I thought, to keep it sort of fair, we'll be able to, we'll do both. And I sort of thought I'll pick tools that I think are quite good to have, like impact drivers and oscillating tools, like the vibrating cutting tools. So I thought it'd be a great thing to sort of do. You could pick an impact driver or an oscillator, and you could then choose between Makita or DeWalt. Great, great idea. And then I sort of ultimately set it all up and pushed it out there to you guys and said it's £10 a ticket. Now that's all great, but the amount of people that I've spoke to in the meantime that have sort of said, "Oh, I'd love to jump on that." just a bit much, a tenner, you know. And I didn't initially consider, and I thought to myself, the whole purpose of me doing this was to help people out that, you know, wanted to get some of these sort of tools that didn't initially have, you know, loads of money, young lads starting out in the game, anybody really, but ultimately, you know, lads starting out with stuff, and I sort of jumped the gun. I jumped the gun a little bit, and I sort of fucked it up. So I'm sorry. £10, I think. Looking back at it now, when you're starting out and you're not getting paid very much, or you know things are a little bit tight, a tenner, and there's a, you know, a good chance you probably won't win because there's more people entering than just you. There's quite a lot of money to lose. So I want to apologise. And what I've decided to do, and what I have done now, is quite a lot of people signed up for it and paid the £10. I've gone back in and refunded you over half of your money. So that will land, if it hasn't already landed in your bank, your money back. It'll land in the next couple of days. But I haven't just chipped it off. What this is what I've done. What I've decided was £10 to pay to buy a ticket that you could potentially not win on was a bit steep. So I've refunded you all. If anyone that's paid for that, I've refunded you £6, and I've only kept £4 of your money. Okay. So ultimately, with me doing that, it sort of costs me because I have to pay the transaction fee on both ways. So when you pay your money, you pay a little transaction fee. I've had to pay it to get it back to you. Doesn't matter. It's come back to you. So I've only kept £4 of your money. And what I've decided to do is to only charge £4 for the ticket, because my apologies, I lost sight of why I initially started doing these giveaways. Initially, I started doing them so that it'd be fair and people would have the chance of winning something really good for a very small amount of money. So it'd be worth your while. So that's what we've resorted to going back to, you know, just letting you know. So that said, if you would like to win an impact driver, a oscillating tool, Dewalt or Makita, you get to pick. If you win, I'll phone you up and you can pick whilst we're live on YouTube, whilst we do live calls. I can phone you up. You tell me exactly what you want, and I'll order it on my Amazon account and send it out to you. And that's what it'll be. It's only £4 a ticket, and in the description of this video is the link to do that. So if you want to pay £4 and potentially win one of those tools, it's less than a fiver, less than a pint basically, and you can win an impact driver, oscillator, Makita, Dewalt, doesn't matter. You get to pick whichever you want. It's £4. Links in the description. Anybody that's already paid for the ticket, you've been refunded the difference. I'll only keep £4 of your money, and the links in the description. So that's that out of the way. That's another thing I want to say to you. So we were meant to have Joe Cook. He's otherwise engaged. And for you guys that have bought tickets, you've been refunded £6. So now that's not the way. Another thing I wanted to do was, which we've had the green light for, was to just do a free giveaway as well, a free live giveaway, for just smaller tools, maybe some materials, bits and bobs. So I got onto the wholesaler, who I buy all my materials off, and these guys are game for this as well. So where I buy in bulk, all my beads, all my scrim, SBR, all that sort of stuff. I buy all that sort of gear in bulk, and I've been onto the wholesalers and said to them, look, I want to give away your gear. You know, obviously a decent sort of prize for someone every single week, and for that giveaway, I'll sort of put your website and your phone number and all that in the description of my live video. So, guys, just letting you know that's happening. That's going to happen as well. And we're just sort of waiting to finalise exactly what I can give away. So we're just waiting on that. So I mean, I just thought I'd drop on and let you guys know what's going on. Let you guys know what the overall plans are, why you haven't seen me, and what's going on behind the scenes. Now, that all being said, who have we got online? Robert Temple, hi Kirk from Knutsford. Ask the plasterer. Here's Eric. Eric will potentially be jumping on a live video with us at some point. I'll be giving Eric an interrogation. I want a good interview anyway. TT, the audio's a bit off today. I don't know what's going on. Let me just see. The audio's off. Let me just see if I can fix that. Wait there a second. Right, you guys can help me then. Give me a second. Let's just see if we can fix this. Oh, Ed Nangville, it's fine. Yeah, so is the audio okay? Can you hear me? Can you hear me loud and clear? Sounds okay. Okay, good stuff. Gary Smith, evening, Kirk. Yeah, so anyway, what we're saying, fellas, would that be a good shout anyway? Sort of interviewing other plasterers, Blaine Gray, Eric from Ask the Plasterer, Alex Morley, Joel Cook. I tell you who else I spoke to. I spoke to him today as well. Mac from Mac Plastering, the Irish plasterer. So these are the sort of guys that I want to get on and ultimately get to know better, you know. And what I was thinking was, I didn't want to just sort of like be like a plastering sort of chat. I wanted it to be more like a chat that you'd have in the pub, you know, like a just sort of getting to know each other. Um, More of a chin wag, you know. But have you guys got any sort of questions that you'd like me to sort of ask them that you want to, you know, get to know these guys a little bit better? So I'm sort of like, you know, thinking, what were they like as kids? Were they naughty? You know, what was their upbringing like? Were they brought up sort of rough and tough, or did they get spoiled, or you know, were they spoiled little brats? What was school like for them? You know, um, what sort of hobbies they've got, what they're into. That was the sort of general, not questioning, but lines of conversation that I was thinking of going down with them. Is that, you know, is there anything you guys can sort of think of what you'd like to get to the bottom of with them? Uh, who've we got on now as well? Which is Scott Hollow from Scotland. uh, Andrew Martino, all right, pal from Leeds. Uh, Tim Bell, sounded like you were talking into a tin. Yeah. I'm not even going to tell you what I had my phone sat in. Tim Bell. This is what my phone was sat on. Right. And you know the mad thing as well? I keep going on that I need to get a new stand to put my phone on, and I've actually bought one. I've got it. It's in the van. I should have it in here, shouldn't I? Oh well. Bear with me. You know what I'm like. You know what I'm like, fellas. Right. Gary Smith. Sounds good to me. I'm a bricky, but I enjoy all the videos out there on your craft. Yeah. Bricklayers. Got a few mates that are bricklayers, to be fair, mate. Anyway, right. Seems how it's just us. Joel's enjoying his baby, so we've got no one to sort of interview. Let's have a beer anyway, because it's been a stressful week. Cheers, guys. Mm. My week's been flipping nuts. Um, Ask Blaine how he found New Zealand. Is that where he's been? Blames me to New Zealand, does he? That's a good shout, yeah. We'll grill him on that. Um, yeah, my week's been mad. So I've started another rendering job. Um, I don't want to keep going on about my flipping knee. Can't do much. Literally, it's taking me 10 times as long because I can't flipping do anything. Uh, Howard Morris beer on a school night. Howard, listen, mate, I need this. I need this today. The flipping stress I've been going through. Right, just to let you know, any of you guys that don't know, I've basically tore my ACL in my knee. So just walking around is agony. Now, I know you're probably thinking, do us a favour, Kirk, fuck off. You've been going on about this for weeks and weeks. I've had this now for must be 2 months. It's no better. It is still just as painful as the first day I did it. No, I'm lying, actually. I'm like, it actually does feel better. I can walk up and down the stairs with no pain. I can, I can get around and about, but ultimately, trying to like squat down to the bottoms of walls and up and down trestles is just agony. So yeah, it's not fun. Not fun at all. I've been sort of falling behind a little bit on jobs as well, which is it's fine. I've been on the phone to the customers, letting them know that I'm injured and I'm going slower. I could potentially do with the time off. I could do with just sort of probably resting, but from what I'm looking at, the recovery time's like 6 to 9 months. So what do you do? Just sit at home for 6 to 9 months? I mean, I'd go nuts. Regardless of whether I could weather the storm and have the time off, it'd drive me flipping crazy sitting at home for 9 months doing nothing. So I sort of need to be in work. So what I've been doing is sort of going into work and just organising the lads, just sort of getting them busy doing what they can do. And I just sort of turn up and do a little bit. I try and crack on to them that I'm doing loads, but I'm just sort of like, just like I'll just work on this little section over here. You would get all the mesh plugged to the walls and all the beads on. So the job that we're currently on at the minute, we're doing I don't know if you have them all over the country or if it's just near me. I'm sure you do have them. Have you seen those houses that were put up in like the war time? And they're like concrete slab houses. I don't know if it's just near me, but I'm sure they must be all over the country. They're just like concrete slab houses. Um, they're not the BSCF ones that I've just done an insulated render on. They're different. These are just fully concrete, and they just like big slabs of concrete just slot together. And they made them, in like World War Two. There's like whole sort of housing estates made from these things where I live, um, and ultimately the council, because a lot of them are council owned, have bricked up and insulated them. So there's loads of them that are sort of looking quite fancy and tidy now. But what was unfortunate for people that bought their own homes, they didn't get the council grant to have theirs bricked up. So a lot of people that actually bought them have still got these just concrete slab houses, which would be fine. But the fact that every other house in the street has now been bricked up with fancy brickwork and had double glazing and a new roof sort of makes your house that you bought sort of stand out as looking a bit old and dated. So it's actually one of those that I'm rendering now. And the challenging part about it is they're just concrete slab houses that have been painted. So because they've been painted, trying to get your new render to stick to the concrete slab house is a bit of a challenge because as you know, render doesn't like to stick to paint, and they're just smooth concrete, so there's not sort of any key. So usually, what we do is fix rib lath. Rib lath is like expanded metal lath, and it's got like little ribs on the back of it. To make the expanded metal lath sit off the wall just ever so slightly, only a tiny little bit. So what I've been doing is drilling and fixing all this mesh to the wall Now, usually we use the riblath and then sand and cement, and the sand and cement never usually really bonds to the painted background, you know, but you rely on the riblath to hold it in situ, to hold it on the wall. And what I've done is I've tried a new way, a new system of doing things. So I've been fixing like K-Ren mesh, the fiberglass mesh to the wall, and instead of using sand and cement, I've used a very high polymer base coat, like what you use for thin coat rendering systems. Basically, this stuff sticks like shit to a blanket, and I've pre-gritted the whole house with an exterior pre-grit, and we've used the high polymer base coat, and then I've bedded mesh into it, and we've drilled and fixed the mesh with little plastic fixings, the same ones that you use for attaching damp-proof membrane. If you're sort of tanking, you know, doing cellars with damp-proof membrane, or when you do the meter, there's a damp-proof membrane that's like a solid plastic barrier, and you fix it with these little plastic knock-in plugs. But the head of the plug's very flat; they sit right flush. So I've been using them plugs, and what I've done is a little test, and I've basically done this on a little section, and seen how well it's adhered. Fair dues, it's like it's stuck fantastic. So I've invented a new way of doing it rather than using all this sand and cement and riblath. I've found a new way of doing it, which is what I'm in the middle of doing now. But as I said, my knee isn't feeling great, so it's still taking longer than what I expected to do it. But that's what I've been up to anyway this week. So just whilst let's just have a look what comments have come in. Jimmy's Building Services. Jimmy's just had a cider. I heard a rumour Danny Arbuckle wanted to get on a rendering job. Yeah, Danny's on the comments here, so let's see what Danny's doing. Patrick Lawrence. Kurt, quick one. Everyone says you shouldn't use bonding in a bathroom. So can you put a tight coat of hardwall over existing walls with tile adhesive and finish in plaster? Will hardwall stick to browning? Right, I'll tell you what, let's just address that. Using a bonding in a bathroom. So, here's the thing, Patrick. I don't know who's saying not to use bonding in a bathroom. Here's my thoughts on it for what it's worth. In your bathroom area, especially around your bath and your shower area, if you end up getting a leak on the seal on your bath or anything like that, potentially the plaster is going to start getting damp, and it's going to start deteriorating, and it's going to start crumbling away. Now, that's true of all gypsum plaster. All gypsum plaster that's exposed to water will eventually start to crumble and deteriorate. Now, plaster that will withstand a lot of water, sand and cement, or lime. Now, if someone's telling you not to use bonding coat in a bathroom, then really you shouldn't, you know, if that was the sort of mindset you had on it, you shouldn't use hardwall, you shouldn't use board finish, you shouldn't use multi finish, because they're all basically made from, you know, the same base material. Plasterboard doesn't fare well when it's damp and wet, even moisture resistant plasterboard. I mean, you get moisture resistant plasterboard, the green plasterboard that they say is for bathrooms, you know, it's for bathrooms, it's for bathrooms. Okay, yeah, get some of that, leave it in water for a week. It'll just it'll just be like slimy mush. So I wouldn't personally worry about using any of these in bathrooms. If you really wanted to go gung ho, then just sand and cement the wall, get it absolutely spot on, and tile it. But that said, I don't want to go off subject and start going into like tiling and stuff like that. But there's showerproof kits. Look at all new builds; they're all dry lined with plasterboard. Okay, they're all plasterboarded. all the bathrooms, shower enclosure areas, it's all done with plasterboard. So I would use the bonding. Don't worry about it. I know for the fact that when I worked for Redrow, they would plasterboard the bathrooms and they put green moisture board in shower areas, even though it's only moisture resistant. It's not water resistant. It's just a bit of moisture, but a dampness resistant to an extent. But when it's wet, it's still knackered. And they would use moisture resistant plasterboard in shower areas. Here's what I'd do, because I've actually fitted bathrooms and stuff in the past. Do your bathroom and the wet area where you're gonna, expect water. Make sure it's fully sealed and grouted, and you see all the grout and all that. But before all that, you can buy showerproof kits, Makpac or Ardex. If you actually go and Google now, showerproof kit, there's kits that come with a liquid and a mortar, and you mix them together and you use it like paste and paint it on. And once that's set, it gives you the fully waterproof background that moisture can't penetrate. So let's just say, for instance, you used your bonding coat, you used bonding in the bathroom, um, and you skimmed it or you didn't skim it, but before you tile it, you use this showerproof kit with and a liquid and a basically a mortar comes together. Now, I haven't actually tested this, and I'm not 100%, but I'm 95% certain. Someone might correct me, but I'm 95% certain that the liquid and the grout that you get that you mix together are SBR and cement. I'm also 95%. I'm like 95% certain that that's what the showerproof kit is made of, is SBR and cement. So when you buy it from Makpac or Ardex, I'm sure that's what you're getting. Now the cement might be a bit more like a higher polymer cement, like if you get HP12, higher polymer 12, K-Ren base coat. Hope I'm not getting too technical with you guys, but the cement's got sort of like polymers in it, like it's more flexible, more adhesive and more flexible. But I'm literally 95% certain that's what the product is like a higher polymer cement with SBR, and that's what the waterproof kit is. Someone might come on that works for the company and correct me, but I'm sure that's what it is. So I wouldn't worry, mate, is what I'm trying to say. I wouldn't worry. If you want to use bonding, just level the walls out, straighten the walls out, then I would go down that route and put a showerproof kit on and then tile it over the showerproof kit. Um, when you're thinking of using different base coat plasters, ultimately what you want to take into account, it's not a case of you get to choose whether I should use hardwall or bonding. The background chooses. It's not it's not like you can just pick between bonding and hardwall and you get the decision. It's ultimately what you're going over makes the decision. If you're going over a high suction background, say it's brickwork that you're going over, then you want to use hardwall because that's designed for high suction backgrounds. If you're going over a bit of old plaster, a bit, bits of missing, bits of this, but bit of brickwork, bit of plaster that's been painted, and all different, like a mixture of backgrounds, then you want to seal the whole background with your PVA or your SPR or your blue grit or whatever you're going to use. Seal it. Once it's sealed, it's a low suction background then because you've sealed it. And bonding coat is designed for low suction backgrounds. So hardwall for high suction, bonding coat for low suction. Whether you skim it or not is up to you. Showerproof kit and then tile it. That's the route I'd go down. If you're not plasterboarding it, I mean, it'd be lovely if you could just cement board the walls so that even if moisture gets through, it's not going to root. The cement board's fantastic under moisture. It doesn't swell up or anything. But you don't really want moisture getting through to it anyway. If moisture's getting through to that, if moisture is actually getting through to your wall, then you've got problems because ultimately it's going to start getting the floor wet. You're going to start getting rot in the floorboards and joists. I mean, moisture shouldn't be able to get to it for the start. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, hope that makes sense for you. Oh, yes. Sorry, he's still there. I took it out my tin, so I'm just sort of balancing. you guys now. Richard Quinn, daytime TV sucks, better off at work, mate. Yeah, I know, mate. I know. Just I can either sit at home earning no money or go to work and earn no money. At the minute, that's basically what the options are. I can go to work and go dead slow and earn nothing, or I can sit at home and earn absolutely nothing. So it's better to go to work and do a bit, isn't it? Um, Omar, what kinds of fixings do you use? So Omar, if you're talking about when I'm attaching the mesh, these are like little plastic plugs that knock in, um, and they come with what's the kit called? The company that make this damp proof kit are called, I'm sure they're called Whack-A-Mole. So if you actually just say if you just Googled um, damp proof fixings, you'd see the fixings that I'm using. Now the reason I'm using these specific fixings is in the past when I've fixed mesh to the wall, like expanding metal lath, I've used metal screws and washers and and screw them to the wall. But ultimately, you metal, you don't want any corrosion because that causes the render to blow. So you have to pay a fortune for like stainless steel, so you don't have any issues with it, or galvanized sort of fixings. But plastic is obviously better because it doesn't corrode at all. Um, so there's two types of plastic fixings that are dead fast to use. One type of fixing is what you use to attach the external wall installation. But these have got big heads on them and they stand off the wall. They actually sink into the polystyrene a little bit. So the way they work, there's like there's ribs on the back of them, but it's okay because it pushes into the polystyrene and sits flat. But the mesh that I'm fixing, I just want to sit perfectly flat with nothing holding them off. So I've used the ones that are for attaching damp-proof membrane. Um, the cheaper. There's no metal part of them. They're just literally like a plug with a flat head, and they've got like a key on the head as well. Great little things they are. Just Google um, fixings for damp-proof membrane, and you'll see what the gear I'm using, mate. Uh, Tim Bell, have you tried using red grit for smooth concrete or brick? Yes, yeah, I've used all different grits externally. The stuff I'm using at the minute is I'm using it because it's just readily available at the builder's yard. It's um it's exterior pre-grit. They're all pretty much the same, you know. It's like it's like using thistle bondit and blue grit and Knauf Becto contact and all these different interior grits that you can get. They're all pretty much the same. Some have got more of a coarse aggregate and they've got different colours and they control suction slightly differently. I mean, out of all the interior grits, Thistle Bond, the green stuff, is the best. But the last time I bought that was like £70 a tub, whereas you can get blue grit for like £15 a tub. So, I mean, um, the exterior pre grit I'm currently using is £25 a tub, so it's peanuts. Um, yeah, the exterior red grit, I'm sure that's called Rendade. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure it's called Rendade. But yeah, I've tried most of them. I'll use it. It just so happens that when I get my stuff from, they sell exterior pre grit, so I just bought that. Let's have a look. Danny Arbuckle, I might need a hand with a render job anyway, Kurt, mate, after I get back from Poland. Danny, we've got to do it, mate. Got to get it done. So for those of you who don't know, Danny basically has got a day with me. Um, we sort of raffled me off for a day to go and work with someone, or them to come and work with me, and Danny won it. And everyone's been waiting for ages for me and Danny to team up and go and do a job together, so we can make a little video of what's happened. And just trying to coordinate it with Danny's diary has been a bit of a nightmare, hasn't it, mate? But we're getting there. We're getting closer. Um, uh, Yeah, Eric's just said he uses bonding in bathrooms. just have a look what this was. No catcher. No catcher as well. Please subscribe to my channel. All right, no, I'll come and have a look in a minute, mate. Ed Nankiville, don't use bonding in a bathroom, full stop. Yeah, it attracts damp. I've seen it tons of times. So, yeah, this is the thing. It's not just, Ed, you're right. Gypsum-based plaster holds on to moisture. So it's not just bonding. It's not just bonding. Hard wall will do exactly the same thing. Um, Browning will do the same thing. I mean, you can't buy Browning anymore. Board finish, multi finish, all all gypsum based plasterers will basically hold the moisture. So I mean, there's not really much else you can get on the market. It'd be fantastic if we could get lime and it was readily available, but it's a bit more tricky to sort of get your hands on. So yeah, it does attract damp. I mean, I've got a bit of a thing about gypsum plasters anyway. I mean, it's not just in bathrooms. Ed, think of think of any house that hasn't got a cavity. Any house that does not have a cavity and a solid wall, there's going to be penetrating moisture. All these houses originally would have had lime plaster internally. Any house built with no cavity originally probably would have been plastered with lime plaster, which breathes. So it's not just bathrooms where you have this problem with flipping gypsum plaster attracting damp. If you get a house with a solid cavity and you start putting bonding coat on the walls, if there's holes, or um you start using hard wall, you're gonna start getting like damp patches because it'll draw the moisture through the wall. So there's ways around it. Sealing the wall first with sort of damp proof membranes. Yeah, it's bit of a shit situation really, because there's been sort of a whole industry born out of this problem, which is a very easy to solve problem ultimately. But there's that many people now popping up as like damp proof specialists, and we do this and we do that for damp situations. But ultimately, if if you're getting rising damp, you need to put a barrier, in the brickwork to stop the damp rising. So a damp proof course, be it a chemical one or a physical one. And if you've got penetrating damp, you need to sort of put, a barrier to stop moisture coming through. Or if we just went back to the way things were done originally, when there was no problems, we just use lime plaster. Problem solved. Use a breathable plaster and a breathable sort of decorative paint on the surface of it. There's no damp issues. It's gone. I mean, look, 200 years ago, no one, there was no damp proof issues. You go back in these Victorian houses and how they were originally done, they didn't have damp problems. They didn't have penetrating damp. They didn't have rising damp. There was no issue because it was done with lime. So now we've introduced these modern materials and now we do have issues. Sand and cement with a waterproofer added stops penetrating damp. The brickwork still gets wet, but you're going to stop the moisture coming through, so it ultimately has to go back out again to dry out. If you've got gypsum plaster on the inside of any sort of bathroom and it gets wet, it's going to get damp. So that's why I'm saying a showerproof kit. A showerproof kit on the surface of that stops moisture going into it. Um, we could talk all day on damp, couldn't we? To be fair. Yeah, there we go. Ed's confirmed he uses any casting. What do you use, Ed? And Ed said, don't use gypsum if you can. Cement board, no plasterboard, and sand and cement. There you go. I mean, the man's right. He's spot on in what he's saying. Your cement board is fine with moisture. Your sand and cement is fine with moisture. But as I said to you, that's all well and good. But if moisture is actually getting to that, if moisture is getting, if you've got a bath and the wall where the shower is in the bath has been tiled and it's been sealed with silicone, and you've got moisture actually getting through that to your background, you've got problems already. I mean, you've already got an issue. So the fact that your wall isn't going to get damp, yeah, that's wonderful, but you've got a problem because the floor's going to get wet. I mean, timber isn't waterproof. Timber's going to swell up. It's going to start rotting. Joists are going to start rotting. It's going to start coming through the ceiling downstairs. So I'm not sort of saying don't use cement or cement board. I mean, yeah, it's far better. It's a far better way of doing it. But ultimately, you don't want the problem in the first place. If the bathroom's fitted properly, you shouldn't have that issue anyway. Um, right. Jimmy's Building Services. Patrick, if in doubt, use sand and cement or hardy backer board and plaster over. Yeah, spot on advice. Ed, if it's a bog standard bathroom, okay, I can skim it with multi, but if it's a wet room, avoid. Yeah, I've seen so many damp problems with thistle bonding coat. It should be banned, really. Hard wall is more breathable. Yeah, hard wall, mate. It's all they're all thistle products. So you still have the same problem with the hard wall, unfortunately, mate. Um, and Ed's just saying bonding on exterior walls always have problems. Yes. So I'll tell you why that is, Ed. An exterior wall with no cavity, you'll have problems. If there's a cavity, you're fine. If there's if you're down to the bare brick and you put bonding coat on a wall, but there's a cavity, there's no issues. If you put bonding coat on a wall with no cavity, then the penetrating moisture when it lashes down and it's pissing down, the rain hits the wall, the bricks will soak it up and the bonding coat will draw it through. But so will hardwall, so will drywall adhesive onto plasterboards. If you're working in any house, it's just a matter of time. That's all it is. If you're working on a house that was built sort of before I don't know, the 50s, 1940s, that sort of era, most of the time you won't have a cavity. You can dry line the living room with plasterboards, dot and dab them on. It'll be fine. It'll look fine for a year or two. But ultimately, eventually, those dabs of adhesive that are stuck to the wall will start to get damp. Now, the level of dampness that we're talking about depends on how much exposure the wall's got, and there's a few variables that are going to affect this. How well weatherproof the outside of the building is, but ultimately, they're going to draw moisture through, depending on how much weather that wall gets on the outside depends on how damp it's actually going to get. But anything gypsum based on the inside will draw moisture through. It's not just bonding that does it. It's also hard wall. It's also um, drywall adhesive. If you wanted to sort of say guarantee you're not going to get any issues, do it in line. Let it breathe. If that's not really your field and you don't really know into lime plastering, then you can give it a good coat of sand and cement with waterproofer in it to create a barrier. What you do on I can't say the word. What you do on the coats after that, subsequent coats, is up to you. Once you've created that waterproof barrier, you could then dry line it. You could then put, bonding coat on or whatever, because you've stopped the penetration of moisture with your waterproof render. But I mean, really, lime. I don't know why we don't use lime. Do you know the mad thing, right? Do you know the mad thing? They say that we've advanced in building. They say that we've got better at building, right? Get on to this. I just want to tell you some crazy facts now. Do you think we are fast at building now? Do you think we're faster than ever at building? Like, look at the speed we do things with dry lining and steel erecting. Now, there's loads of buildings I could tell you about. There's loads of different buildings to tell you about. Just bear with me though, right? There's a Marks and Spencer's been built near me. Big M&S, second biggest in the country. It's not that big, but it's the second biggest M&S in the country. It's a fair-sized supermarket. It took them 3 years to build it. It's just a big warehouse. There's nothing fancy in there. It's just a big steel warehouse with cladding on the outside. You know what a supermarket looks like on the inside. There's no ornate plastering, right? 3 years it took them to build it. Now, Google this. Google the Liver buildings. The Liver buildings in Liverpool. Yeah. Now it's not just the Liver buildings because it gets more interesting than this, but just Google the Liver buildings. Google the construction time, start and end date. How long it took them to build the Liver buildings. Look at the pictures of the things. They are the most beautiful flipping buildings. The Liver buildings are gorgeous. The ornate work, the stonework internally, the plaster work. It would take you 3 years to reskim the inside of it. It's massive, right? It's a massive building. Do you know how long it took them to build it? Do you know how long the Liver buildings took to build? You can Google this. You can see this yourself. 3 years. It took them 3 years to build the Liver buildings. It took them just as long to build an M&S. Now, you might just be sort of like, oh yeah, whatever, yeah. Get onto this. They didn't have vehicles. There was no trucks. There was no cranes with hydraulic lifts. And we think we're better at building now. We think we're fast at building. You think your dot and dab's quick using your plasterboard systems are fast. Have a look at the internal plastering, the Liver buildings, the fancy ornate plastering work, all cornices and everything, all running situ. It was no fibrous stuff that was brought in. It's all running situ, all lime work. The place is gorgeous. The plastering didn't take 3 years. I'm on about the whole building. Took 3 years from the spade going in the ground to the thing being finished with these big massive birds put on the top of it. Took 3 years. And we think we're fast at building now. We think we're advanced. We haven't got a flipping clue. Now, if you think that's bizarre, you could say to yourself, okay, I've been doing research on this, by the way. You could say, okay, yeah, all right, Kirk, yeah. But they must have had all the best tradesmen in the country at the time working on this. No. Google the most prominent, beautiful made buildings. Just put into Google, what are the most beautiful buildings built in Liverpool, right? Look at the dates they were built. There's about 7 or 8 of them. They were all built at the same time. All of these buildings were built at the same time, and they were all built within 5 years. So you go, okay, yeah. Well, all the best tradesmen in the country must have all been in Liverpool. You know, they had the best architects, they had the best stonemasons, the best plasterers. They all must have been in Liverpool. No, no. Tell you a good thing to Google. Put into your Google search bar. Beautiful buildings built between 1850 and 1920. So you got a period there of 70 years. It's like one sort of lifespan. You know, a 70-year lifespan. Yeah, just Google that, 1850 to 1920. Yeah, there's 70 years. Google beautiful buildings built in that period. Nearly every gorgeous building in the UK with the most elaborate fancy plasterwork was built in that time period. The Houses of Parliament. The Houses of Parliament. You've seen, haven't you, on the news, Big Ben and all the Houses of Parliament, right? They were built in 8 years. Google it. Have a look at it. 8 years. They can't even build a Marks and Spencers in 3 years. And there's cracks and there's all sorts of problems in this. These boys built these massive buildings, gorgeous, and they've got no problems. They've got no damp issues. They've got no expansion joints for cracks. I'm tradesmen now think they're good. They think they're flipping something special. You haven't got a flipping clue. These old boys that were doing. I tell you, some of the stuff that they've built in the past is just amazing, and we think we know what we're doing now. Right, there we go. Let's just catch up on the comments. Sorry, guys. Just let me just catch up where we were. Sand cement glued with SBR and cement slurry. Yeah. Magu who? How's things, Kirk? If you were stuck, could you ever mix SBR and a bit of sand as a substitute for thistle bond or blue grit? Yeah, my old fella used to mix building sand into his PVA. Here's the thing, you know, I don't know how useful grit actually is. I mean, it's nice to skim onto, but ultimately, I don't know how much it actually helps things stick. I know a lot of fellas swear by it. This thing it's fantastic, because they can skim over Artex ceilings and stuff with it. But really, when you get down to the nitty gritty of it all, when you've got like dusty substrates and backgrounds and stuff, you want to be using stabilizing solutions. Anyway, that's a whole other topic we can go into. Do you know what tends to happen though with all these grits and different backgrounds and that? Fellas sort of get a way that works for them, and then they sort of that's their way then, you know, and nothing else will work for them. Ultimately, it's I always say I'll always try new things. I'm never sort of switched off to any new way of doing stuff, you know. Got a good understanding of how different materials work and stuff. But my thinking of it is, I make YouTube videos and show people sort of different ways of doing stuff, and plasterers will come on and say, "No, no, no, that's not how you do it. You're doing it wrong," because it's not their way that they're recommending is good. It works. But the thing with plastering is, it doesn't matter what you do. There's literally 20 different ways of doing everything. There's 20 different techniques you can use for skimming. There's a multiple array of different backgrounds that you can use, different plastering systems. I mean, there's loads of different ways of doing the same job. Some ways are wrong. Some ways, like we were just saying before, putting bonding coat or hard wall on a solid 9-inch brick wall is just wrong. It's just not the right way of doing it. But that said, I mean, you could there's nothing stopping you putting damp proof membrane on the wall, the plastic membrane, fixing that and putting bonding coat on that. Or you could dry line onto it. You could put sand and cement and put bonding coat on top of the sand and cement with a waterproofer in it. You could put sand and cement and then dry line on top of it. I mean, there's literally loads of different ways of doing it when you use your mind and think, okay, well, if that's fixed that situation and what we put on top of that, we can do whatever we want then, there's just different ways of doing stuff, but it doesn't mean that anybody is sort of like, what I'm trying to say. I don't write nothing off and say I'm not doing that, that's wrong. If it can work, it's good to have up your sleeve 20 different ways of doing something. If you know 20 different ways of doing the same job, then when you come across a situation, you might go, okay, I usually do this, but that's not going to work in this situation. But I can do it this way. So you can't just hold fast to one method all the time. It's good to have different methods up your sleeve that you could potentially use, as long as you know what you're sort of up against. As long as you understand, for instance, what we're talking about now, that gypsum-based plasterers hold moisture, so you don't want to put them on anything that's going to get wet. Then then. If you put a membrane up, it doesn't matter what you put on the inside of it. So you could put a membrane up and people go, no, it's still a solid 9-inch wall. It's got to be sand and cement. Well, no, it hasn't, because now you put a membrane up. You just got to use your head a little bit and think about it. Omar, yeah, I know the plugs you're on about for the damp proofing. Was wondering how you were fixing the expanded metal rib mesh. You've covered it now. Cheers. Okay, sound. Render grip. Yeah, that's it. There's loads of different grips for outside. Render grip, Rendade, exterior pre-grip. There's all different ones. Don't water down the SBR. Yeah, good shout. I use it neat personally. Danny Arbuckle, bring your camera. We're definitely getting it done. Yeah, Dan, I'm looking forward to it. Uh, right, Magu, who? Next question. I've never done the line, but I have one coming up. Interior walls in an old stone house. Is it one or two coats? Um, so lime, mate. Ultimately, ultimately, if you're going on stone walls, you'll probably end up doing like 4 coats. You're going to go out and build out all your big hollow areas first. You're going to go around, if you go over stone walls with lime plaster, you're going to go around first and fill out all the big hollow areas, like big inset bits. Daub those out first and key them well, give them a good key. Then you're going to go around and do a scratch coat. Now it's really important when you're using lime that you control the suction. So you want to be using, basically, the best way to control the suction for lime. Get a hose pipe, put it on mist on the end of it, and just keep soaking the walls, drenching them, and do it until the wall won't drink any more water. So what I mean by that is drench the wall, yeah, and by the time you've started at one end and got to the other end, the wall will be damp, but it'll have dried in a little bit. Do it again, it'll go dark again, mist over the whole wall again. Now keep doing that. You could be there. You sort of want your apprentice doing this, or someone like someone sort of lesser skilled whilst you're, I don't know, doing other things, more important stuff, because it's just basically keep damping the wall down, and eventually you'll reach a point where the wall won't drink any more water. It'll be fully saturated, like it'll stay dark when the water hits it. It won't go any darker. It'll already be damp. And then what you want to do is when you look at the wall and it's like it's soaked, you're going to see the water sort of on the surface running down like a glisten. There'll be like a glisten of water on the wall. Wait for that glisten to go. Whilst that glistens there, whilst it's glistening the wall with like water on the surface, if you try and spread it, it'll slide. Wait for that glisten just to go, and it's just like a matte, damp look. The wall's fully saturated. Then you start applying your plaster, and that way, then there's no suction. You give the wall as much water as it'll drink, but you want to be using a mist on your hose. If you sort of they used to do this with a splash brush and just be soaking the wall and soaking it. Some fellas will put a first coat of lime on and they call it like the crack coat because the moisture will suck it in and it'll all crack. I don't really like anything to crack. I want to build the wall out first, soak it. I want to put me scratch coat on and then give that chance to cure. Depending if you're using lime's just a massive topic, to be fair. If you're using hydraulic lime, it will set. If you're using hydrated lime, it will cure. So I know that sounds mad because there's two different types of lime, but basically hydraulic lime has got a setting action in it, whereas hydraulic lime's got a setting action in it. Hydrated lime dries within the air, the carbonation in the air. So depending on what lime you're using, but either way, soak the wall so there's no suction. Give it your scratch coat. Your scratch coat is going to give you an even suction all over the wall. Then it's going to even everything out. So then when you damp that down, you can put your floating coat on that you're going to rule off and have an even suction. So again, once that's cured, give it a day or so to cure. Then give it a floating coat after you've damped it down again and rule that off. Then you're going to get a nice flat surface that you rub up and you scout. You put your key into. Give that a couple of days to fully, sort of cure and firm up, and then you damp it down again and you put your finishing coat on. Then you're going to get a good, solid, straight surface. If you try and do it too quick without controlling the suction, it's going to crack. I mean, ultimately you can damp it down and rub it up and you can work with it, but I'm not like an expert with lime. I can do it, but I don't work the stuff every single day. Some fellas that do lime all the time might say, "Oh no, Kirk's talking crap. Once you've got them cracks, you can always wet it down and rub it up again." And I don't know. There's probably a few different ways you can do that system, but ultimately the way I do it, I don't have cracks in the finished surface. It'll be good, sound, solid, and straight. But it's a drawn out process. It does take a while to do, but then once it's done, lime plaster is basically there forever. So you don't really have to worry about it once it's done right and done once. That's the end of the job. It's flipping good for 200-300 years, so, or longer. Sorry, Brian Power, Kirk. I'm a plasterer at 5. I'm plastering a 5-bedroom domed house in September. It's made from clay blocks. How would you fix half-inch slabs to it? I'm doing it on weekends. I work for them, man. There's 5 of us. Clay blocks. When you say the clay blocks, I'm assuming that you're talking about like the stuff that you have in Spain, like the I think they call them clinker blocks, like clay, and they've got like little holes through them. I'm sure that's what you're talking about. Correct me if I'm wrong. Uh, well, he's just confirming. I'm from Ireland. None of us ever plastered them square clay blocks before. All my boss's work is block houses, sand and cement inside and outside, and skim over sand and cement inside. Okay, so if you're talking about these clay blocks, then I'm thinking like what they have in Spain. You can sand and cement them. You can literally sand and cement over them. Just wet them down and sand and cement them like you usually would. Other than that, dry wall adhesive sticks to them, no problem. So you can just dab them and skim them. If we're talking about the same type of clay blocks. Kirk, what's your favourite thing to do work-wise? Is I work skimming over board or Artex or tricky jobs like that conservatory ceiling. What's my favourite type of work to do? I don't know. I like a bit of everything, mate. But I'll tell you what I like, Jimmy. Um, this is why plastering I think is a fantastic game, because you can be doing line work one day, K-Ren the next day, skimming over Artex, floating walls the next day. You can be firelining garage ceilings. There's literally there's that many different things that you can do within the plastering game. I pretty much enjoy all of it. Um, I tell you what I do like. One of my sort of favourite times was I was working in Buckinghamshire, down near Milton Keynes before I got married, and I was running sand and cement mouldings on the outside of a house. I, I was getting paid day work, and I was running sort of like architraves around windows and like mouldings around the centre of buildings and round like circular sort of sections of the building on bays and stuff like that. That was really nice. Just being able to take the time and sort of build the molds and um, put the running rules on the wall and just get everything set out, and then all the different aspects of running in Portland cement, using dryers to build the mold up and stuff, and coring the molds out, all that sort of. I enjoyed that. That was. I mean, I probably wouldn't want to do it every single day, but thinking back, what I've sort of enjoyed doing, that was a great fun doing that, because I was a young lad at the time, and the fellas on the job hadn't seen anything like it before. They were amazed, and there's genuinely not really much to it. It's just I enjoyed doing that. That was quite fun. It wasn't heavy work. It was very satisfying seeing the end results once, because we basically smooth rendered all the walls. Now I know fellas give all that different terms, different names up and down the country, but what I'm talking about is standard cement render, rubbed up smooth and flat. Um, that was how the whole building was done, with these sort of like mouldings around the windows and around halfway up the building and stuff. That was that up to now. That's been my most sort of favourite thing to do. But I enjoy all of it, to be honest with you. Uh, uh, Ed, lime's expensive since World War II. Building game has been bastardised. Yeah, yeah, I agree. The World Wars killed off most of the master tradesmen. So the game, although we think we're fantastic now, we ain't nothing compared to what those old boys used to be like. Uh, Chris one, it probably took them 3 years because they were probably held up by the plumbers not showing up. Go and have a look at the go and have a look at the flipping line of the buildings, mate. Imagine that happening in 3 years now. There'd be no chance. Uh, yeah, Ed, it's all a lie. The line about history of the line of the buildings. See, this is what I'm thinking. You're sort of on a similar sort of mindset to me, right? I'm looking at the Houses of Parliament built in 8 years, and at the same time, they built the Tower Bridge. At the same time, here's one for you: the Forth Bridge in Scotland, the Forth Bridge. So I was looking at that the other day because that's another one built in the same era. Um, it took them 8 years to build. Guess how long it takes us to paint it? So the painters that go over that bridge and sort of like rub it down and repaint it takes them 6 years. It's a cycle, a 6 year cycle to get from one end fully painted to the other end. 6 years, right? Just to paint it. These guys built it in 8 years. They were in the middle of the flipping in the water, putting foundations in. They had, how were they getting down to the bottom of the flipping the bed to put the foundations and then build out the water and then all the ironwork involved? There was no trucks, there was no cranes. It was all done by flipping horse and cart, and they did the whole job in 8 years. And it takes us 6 years to paint it. I can't get my head around it. I can't understand it. I think there's been bullshit injected into our history at some point. We were either really advanced, we've either been a super advanced civilization in the past, and we are now like, going declining in our what we can accomplish. Or if that wasn't the case, then someone's lying about the amount of time it took to build all these structures. One of the two. Because we definitely can't do that sort of stuff these days in that time scale. Um, right, Danny Arbuckle, fair play is right and all. I just googled it. That's amazing to think they did all that in 3 years. And I tell you one reason why it was slower, because they never had all the H&S we did today. The health and safety weren't on. Right, Ed. Ed's saying you can never find plans of these buildings or architect drawings of this period. There's more than one. Right, Ed, you're spot on. I'll tell you another thing as well. Look, when the camera was invented, okay, the camera's been around a lot longer, and all these buildings, all these gorgeous buildings, um, there's no, there's not many photographs of them being built. Here's a bizarre one. Google the World Fair in Chicago, the Chicago World Fair. Have a look at that. Chicago World Fair. Go and have a look at that. It was like a town built. Now every single building in that town, you've never seen plasterwork like it. Okay, it's absolutely gorgeous. They built a little paradise. There's statues of like goddesses. There's archways. There's domes. There's cornice work. It's honestly, it is picturesque. They built the Chicago World Fair in 2 years. It was there for 6 months and they tore it down. They blew it up with dynamite. I can't get my head round what they were doing. I can't. It just doesn't make sense. The skills that they had, and then to blow it all up. I don't know. I don't know whether we've sort of conquered an old world and then destroyed it and sort of said, "Yeah, we built it. We're knocking it down." I don't know. I don't know. You can go down a conspiracy sort of rabbit hole, you can start googling Tartary and the Tartarians and the Tartarian Empire. Um, but that's, I mean, I'm not big into conspiracies, but it's quite interesting. What there's a lot of stuff online about the Tartarians. I mean, it's a civilization that we've never even heard of, and some people say they never existed. But if you're interested, Google them, Google the Tartarians, and see what comes up. Um, there's more than one way to right, okay. Carl, yeah, it's like a grey on how they were built. It only took 4 years to build the tobacco warehouse. What was 27 million brick in its construction? It's unreal, guys. Just the logistics of doing this is bizarre to me. Just not even the building of it, right? Where were the bricks made? How did they get that many bricks to the site? I've been on jobs like where people are trying to batter houses, like they're trying to turn a job round in a week or two, and you've got everyone in there under each other's feet, and it's chaos. You've got electricians trying to do things with plumbers at the same and plasterers, and it's just chaos. And I'm thinking, how could they have possibly built this thing that don't know. It's nuts. um, Darren Jones, Kirk, how can I make £500 a day like you? Darren, um, join me coaching group. Tell you all about it. But £500 a day, flipping heck, mate. I wouldn't get out of bed for that. Right, I'm behind on the comments here because I'm just looking. All your comments are from ages ago. So let's just get further along. Um, horse and cart ballot homes. Yeah, right. Skater girl. If you add waterproof to a sand and cement 9-inch back uh, 9-inch back wall, do you need the S to SPR the brickwork beforehand, then render and finish with the skim coat? What's the process? Cheers, Kirk. Okay, so there's different ways of doing it. There's loads of different processes that you can use, but if you've used SPR on the sorry, wait there. Let me just I'm losing my thread because I'm getting a visitor. Oh, it's honest. Look at that. Coffee. Thanks, sweetheart. How come I got a coffee? You love me. Oh, why not? Didn't even order that. I just got a nice little brew brought in for me. Dan, Dad, the man you can't live without.
I can't read that's mirrored.
Well, I get the gist of it. Thanks, sweetheart. I love you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be in soon, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. See you in a bit, chicken. Right, sweetheart.
Also, once you finish your live, I've got some drama to tell you.
Okay. I'll come in. We'll have a little chill mag in a minute. I'll be quick, all right, because you've got bed in a minute. Okay, right. Sorry, let's just answer this question quick. I've got to go soon because I've got to spend a bit of time with my daughters. If you had waterproof, it's a cement 9-inch back wall, you need SPR brick beforehand, then rent. Right, okay. Let me tell you my way of doing it, Skater Girl. I'll tell you exactly how I'd do this. If I had a solid 9-inch wall and I was going to stand the cement in and skim it, this is exactly what I'd do. I'd put my scratch coat on in the morning, and I'd have in my mind that I'm going to put a floating coat on in the afternoon. Okay, so I would mix sand and cement at about a 4-to-1 sort of mix, 4-to-1, 5-to-1. Sharp sand or grit sand with cement. I don't like using building sand. Different subject. You can use building sand if you really wanted to, but I wouldn't recommend it. I think a grit sand rubs up far nicer as well. Grit sand it in the morning, and I would use a plasticizer, so fed mix in the mortar. So it'd be about a 4-to-1 mix with some fed. Scratch coat the wall. Okay, then that will firm up quite sort of quick. About dinner time, I'd then look at putting another coat on of sand and cement. Again, similar mix, 4-to-1 or a 5-to-1. You want to go progressively weaker. So I'll probably do it the same or a little bit weaker, but this time I would add waterproofer to the mix. Now, there's a reason I don't put waterproofer in the scratch coat. If you're floating internally, and you put waterproof in the scratch coat, then your floating coat, the one that you're going to rule off and get nice and straight, will hang forever. So I only put waterproof in the top coat, rule it off, rub it up, give it a day to cure, and the day after, because you've got waterproof in the top coat, when you come to skim it, it'll not draw the moisture out your skim too much. You can still damp it down before you skim it if you really wanted to, but if you put the maximum amount of waterproofer in it, then that'll be fine. I wouldn't do anything to the brickwork apart from damp it down. So I just damp the brickwork down before I started. You know, if you've knocked the walls off and it's dusty, brush them off, damp them down, scratch coat it with no waterproofer, float it with sand and cement again with waterproofer, give it a day to cure, skim it the day after that. That's how I would do it. Again, there's about 100 different ways that people might recommend to you. I'm just saying that's how I do it, and I've never had any problems doing it that way. Right. Richard Scott, I was just going to ask if you've been going down the Tartaria and mud flood theory. Yeah, look, I'm not into conspiracy theories, but I have had a look at. I'm not so much interested in the Tartarians. I'm not so much interested in the mud flood. What I am interested in is the construction of these buildings. Now, what's interesting is you get books like this. I mean, I know I've showed you this in the past, but you get books like this, Plastering, Plain and Decorative by William Miller, and this goes through, you know, it goes through these sort of buildings that that the Tartarians had built, and it explains how to do all the plasterwork. So we've still got the technology to do it. It's just bizarre to me how fast they did it, you know, because that reading that and applying that, I'm just looking at it thinking, there's just no way that they could do it that fast. But I mean, the work ethic was different then, wasn't it? So I don't know. Don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist as such, but it does intrigue me. I am open to always investigating stuff, you know. Eric has said he worked on BBC Television Centre and some big London hospitals. Who, mate? Have I missed someone's comment here? Uh, right. Dan Noble, hi Kirk, just bought some Bondit SPR. I usually use pre-grit or blue grit. Do you water it down or just roll it on neat? Just put it on neat, mate. Just use your SPR neat. Let it go, let it dry and skim it. You can skim it after about 20 minutes. You can leave it till the next day till it's completely sealed. It still works. It doesn't need to be tacky. I know some fellas disagree with that, but I've tested it. I give you my word. I wouldn't say it on my YouTube channel if I didn't think it'd work, mate, because I wouldn't want the abuse if it all went wrong. So trust me, you can let it dry and it'll still work just the same. SBR, like Ed saying, SBR the bricks first, get girl. It will make the sand and cement stick better. So there you go. Again, it's not conflicting advice. There's just that many different ways of doing the same job. So yeah, you can SBR the bricks first. You can seal your bricks. I personally damp them down. That might be because I'm a minge bag. I know I could SBR them, but I don't like sort of paying to paint all the bricks when I could just damp them down and it does the same job. But there you go. So there's more than one way to skin a cat, as we know. Jimmy's, but Eric, you bet your father-in-law has some stories. What part of London he's from, Eric? I've missed a comment here. I need to find out about this. Anyway, I'm going to get to the bottom of this with Eric and what his father-in-law has been doing with the BBC because Eric has agreed he's going to come on and let me interview him. So we'll be having Eric on here at some point. Buildings were almost built much bigger in ceiling height, etc. back in the day. They were gorgeous. The stuff we build nowadays, and we think we're flipping fast and advanced, we haven't got a clue. Skater Girl, thanks, Kirk. Awesome, Ed. Thanks. I'll SPR the bricks first. Like I said, good stuff. Jimmy's Building Services was born on Old York Road, Battersea. Nice one, Kirk. Eric seems like one of the boys. Yeah, Eric's a flipping lovely fella. So Eric, by the way, if anyone's reading these comments, ask the plasterer. That's Eric. Eric Dilemma Venci. I'm sure that's how you pronounce Eric's surname. Dilemma Venci. Eric will probably correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, Eric's a lovely bloke. And do you know what? The nice thing with Eric is when I first started my YouTube channel. So anyone reading the comments here, ask the plasterer. That's who I'm talking about now. When I first started my YouTube channel, straight off the bat, Eric was one of the first fellas that was sending me nice messages and sort of encouraging me. So if you sort of know my story and why I created my channel, it was more so for me son. But when it started getting a little bit of traction, subscribers, and you guys started, interacting with me, Eric was straight there, sort of interacting with me, encouraging me, sending me nice messages and stuff. And every time I get another 1,000 subscribers, Eric sends me a little personal message to say congratulations. So he's an absolute gentleman. He's just an all-round lovely fella. So I've actually asked Eric if he'll jump on with me live and let me interview him a little bit. He's been plastering for more years than I've been alive, so be a great fella to sort of have on the show. We'll get to know him a bit better. Jimmy saying have him on next weekend. Yeah, well, we'll just see. Like I said, Joel Cook was meant to be on today, but his baby's just come along, and you know what it's like when your first little one comes along and your missus is, there's all sorts of things that women go through with childbirth, isn't there? Afterwards they've got issues they've got to deal with and blood pressure up and down and stuff. So anyway, hope she's on the mend. Joel, if you're watching. Oh, right, gents. It's 11 o'clock at night. It's time for bed. You've all got work in the morning, and so have I. I've got to go and do something. Eric, I got tired messaging every time you got another 1,000. Cheers, Eric. You've been lovely fella. Right, guys. Yeah. Anyway, bedtime. Come on. I'll let you go. Go and get your head down. You've all got a big day tomorrow, and so have I. I've got to pull my finger out tomorrow. Can't be using this knee excuse anymore because the mortgage company won't have it. they want the flipping spondoolies. So, right. Eric saying good night. Jimmy saying Joel's going to need a few weeks. He will indeed. Guys, hope you enjoy these live calls, but I promise you they're going to get better very soon. We're going to start doing like a little bit of a podcast session on them and giveaways as well. So anyway, thanks for all the support. I love talking with you. Love chewing the cud with you as putting the world to rights. What am I even doing? I've been having a coffee here. I've got a full can of beer here. Right, I'm going anyway. I'm going to drink my beer whilst no one's watching. Good night, God bless. It's been emotional. Love you all. See you. End the stream. Yeah. Got to make sure you go before I start itching my ass. I'll see you later.